researching spells, decomposition timelines, and alternative uses for certain chemicals, these suspected killers learned the hard way that what goes on the internet stays on the internet. When Boston real estate executive Anna Walshe went missing in early 2023, it didn't take police long to zero in on her husband Brian, who was already in a bit of legal trouble. Per the New York Times, Brian Walshe was under house arrest for selling fake paintings and didn't mention to anyone that his wife had disappeared. This presumably left him plenty of time to clean up some pretty damning evidence, such as a large amount of blood and a damaged knife, which were found in his basement. Despite telling investigators that his wife had left for the airport 3 days before she vanished, the pings from her phone had remained close to home, casting more doubt on his story.
Investigators said blood and 2 knives were found in the Walshe's basement and bloodstains were found in Brian's car.
The cops took Brian Walshe into custody, and his internet search history led them to believe they were looking in the right place. According to Today, Brian conducted searches pertaining to cleaning blood from a wooden floor, dismembering a body with a hacksaw, how to slow down decomposition, and whether one can be charged with murder when there's no body. He even gifted the cops with a clear motive by searching for how long someone needs to be missing before you inherit their assets. Brian Walshe pleaded not guilty and is awaiting trial. The 2011 murder trial of Casey Anthony, whose 2-year-old daughter Kaylee went missing in 2008, caught everyone's attention. Casey had roused suspicion by not reporting Kaylee missing for over a month, partying and shopping during that time, instead of panicking over her absent daughter and acting decidedly nonchalant after coming under suspicion, according to Biography. Kaylee's remains were found buried a short distance from Casey's house in late 2008. At her trial, Casey Anthony's defense attorney stunned jurors by presenting an alternate theory that Kaylee's death had been accidental and that her grandfather George Anthony had helped his daughter cover up the incident by disposing of her body. Casey was shockingly acquitted of murder, although she was convicted of charges, including lying to investigators. Her search history, which was included as evidence during the trial, was eyebrow-raising to say the least. Per ABC News, the prosecution revealed that Casey had searched dozens of times for information on chloroform and that she also performed searches for things like household weapons and neck breaking.
I lied to everyone because that was my whole life up to that point.
In 2014, Calgary resident Douglas Garland was arrested for the murder of his former business associate Alvin Lickness, his wife Kathy, and their 5-year-old grandson Nathan. Prosecutors would contend that Garland had become obsessed with the couple. A virtual mountain of evidence against him had been found at the scene and in Garland's distinct green pickup truck, which had been spotted in the vicinity of the crime. Although the family's bodies were never found, enough forensic evidence existed, not to mention surveillance footage of Garland purchasing some highly questionable supplies to charge him with murder. His search history told the rest of the story. Discovered on a hidden hard drive in Garland's home, his history included such terms as most painful torture, bone grinder, and human dissection, per CBC News. He'd also searched how to drill out a Schlage lock, the very type of lock that had indeed been disabled with a power drill the night the family went missing. Garland was convicted in 2017, and he was handed 3 consecutive life sentences. His appeal was rejected, and his sentence was upheld in 2021. Kenosha, Wisconsin resident Mark Jensen was convicted in 2008 of the 1998 killing of his wife Julie. Prosecutors say Julie was poisoned with antifreeze and sleeping medication before being slowly suffocated to death, per Kenosha News. Mark was handed a life sentence, which was overturned on appeal in 2021 when the Wisconsin Supreme Court determined that evidence in the form of a letter written by Julie before her death had been improperly introduced at trial.
Mr. Jensen never said he had anything to do with the death of his wife, right?
According to ABC 7 Chicago, Mark Jensen was retried and convicted yet again in 2023, with one key piece of evidence from his first trial helping to seal the conviction. When Mark had originally come under suspicion, forensic analysis of his computer had revealed that shortly before Julie's death, her husband had conducted some incriminating searches. Mark searched for subjects such as poisoning with ethylene glycol, which is the main ingredient in antifreeze, and that he had attempted to conceal the evidence by deleting his browser's search history, per WISN 12 News. Nikolas Cruz was the perpetrator of the 2018 Parkland school shooting and was responsible for killing 17 students and educators at Marjorie Douglas Stoneman High School, per NBC News. While Cruz's guilt was never in doubt, Prosecutors at his trial needed to provide evidence supporting first-degree murder charges. Among those pieces of evidence was the search history on the shooter's phone, which left little doubt that the horrifying act was premeditated. According to a Florida Department of Law Enforcement document, the most prominent among these searches was shooting people massacre, along with unrelated but disturbing searches for terms involving sexual assault and gun violence. The device also contained a screenshot of a Wikipedia article about the 2012 Aurora movie theater shooting, while numerous notes described exactly how Cruz intended to keep calm while carrying out the massacre with chilling detachment. Cruz ended up pleading guilty right before his trial was set to start in 2021. He was given 17 consecutive life sentences, meaning he will never be eligible for parole. When Chula Vista, California resident Larry Millete's wife, Maya, went missing on January 7, 2021, it didn't take investigators long to turn their focus to him. Larry didn't show up for work that day, and attempts to contact him were unsuccessful, as his phone was turned off for the entire day, per KPBS. Surveillance footage revealed that he had left home very early in the morning and didn't return for about 12 hours, and when the cops got a look at the search history on his phone, it painted a pretty damning picture. Along with text messages from Maya stating her intention to divorce him, it was found that Larry had searched the internet for subliminal wife training, along with searches for information on incapacitating sedatives like Rohypnol. According to prosecutors at his preliminary hearing, he also sought out various individuals who appear to sell spells, which he hoped to use to keep Maya from leaving him, per News 7 San Diego. Millete was ordered to stand trial for Maya's murder in January 2023, despite the fact that her body had not been found. In 2013, Orange, California resident Maribel Ramos vanished from the apartment she shared with her friend and roommate Casey Joy, per the Orange County Register. Ramos's boyfriend would later tell investigators that he had overheard the pair arguing about money shortly before she went missing. While Joy quickly became the subject of scrutiny, investigators found little in the way of evidence to tie him to the disappearance at first.
She's my best friend. Actually, she's my only friend, only family member I have.
Police placed Joy under surveillance, and roughly 2 weeks after Ramos's disappearance, he was found to have used a library computer to search for information about how long it takes a body to decompose. He cleared the browser's search history, then used a satellite map to scout out an unassuming plot of land in nearby Santiago Canyon. After searching in the area for about 45 minutes, police turned up Ramos's remains. Investigators called the fateful map search a virtual drive-by of the area where Joy had disposed of Ramos's body. Joy was convicted of Ramos's murder in 2014 and given a sentence of 15 years to life in prison. Felicia Johnson was celebrating her birthday in Houston, Texas, when she went missing in April 2022, per KHOU 11 News. It was discovered that she had left the hotel room of one Chukwuebuka Nwobodo shortly before she vanished. Records from Uber confirmed that Nwobodo had indeed ordered a ride for Johnson the previous evening. The next day, he had been treated for a cut on his hand at a local clinic. He was also spotted at local stores purchasing such items as trash bags, towels, and most ominously, a mechanical saw. Investigators were able to examine Nwobodo's search history through his Gmail account, and what they discovered was suspicious to say the least. Nwobodo had searched for information on how to destroy DNA and where he could find the most forested part of Houston. He also searched for how to totally erase your search history, along with multiple other searches pertaining to how one might go about getting away with murder. While the cops felt confident enough to charge Nwobodo with murder and evidence tampering, Johnson's body was found in the Sam Houston National Forest in February 2023. Charges against Nwobodo were filed in absentia, and he remains at large.
Her body has been found, and so she can return to get justice for herself.
Jolene Cummings and Kimberly Kessler were co-workers at a Florida hair salon in 2018. During Kessler's trial for Cummings' murder in 2021, co-workers testified that the pair never really got along, describing a particularly tense argument between the two in May 2018, per News 4 Jacksonville. The next day, Cummings vanished, leaving behind a significant amount of blood at her place of work. Police zeroed in on Kessler, and her internet search history quickly came under scrutiny. Investigators found suspicious terms such as autopsy, cadaver, and Florida female murderers. The one search that really set off alarms was Jolene Cummings' no body, no crime. Kessler's defense attorneys argued that with no hard physical evidence, their client should be set free. However, Kessler was found guilty of killing Cummings and sentenced to life in prison in 2022. One December morning in 2016, Abilene, Texas resident Cheryl Niblo made a frantic call to 911 to report that she had heard a volley of gunshots from inside her home. She had managed to exit the house and was using a neighbor's phone, but she feared for the life of her husband, local real estate agent Tom Niblo. Her worst fears were confirmed when emergency personnel arrived to find Tom, who had been shot dead in the couple's bed, per KTXS. Suspicion reportedly quickly fell upon Niblo's brother-in-law, Luke Sweetser, who was married to Niblo's estranged sister, Eloise. The Sweetsers had a falling out with the Niblos during a dispute over the leadership of the family partnership, per MSN. Luke's search history around the time of the crime was extremely suspicious. It included such terms as hydrochloric acid and dead bodies, and breaking up family partnership. Luke was charged in 2018 when the murder weapon was discovered in a creek near the Niblo home. In 2022, he was sentenced to life in prison. In 2018, investigators in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, finally made an arrest in a nearly 4 decades-old cold case. 18-year-old Michelle Martinko had been stabbed to death in a mall parking lot all the way back in 1979, per CBS 2 Iowa. Advances in DNA technology had allowed investigators to link 66-year-old Jerry Burns, who had been in his 20s at the time of the crime, to Martinko's slaying.
His DNA was on the dress.
After he was arrested, searches Burns had conducted on a work computer aroused suspicion. They included searches for violent and sadistic pornography, depictions of violence and murder, and in particular, violence against blonde women like Martinko. In February 2020, Burns was found guilty of Martinko's murder on the strength of the DNA evidence. He was handed a life sentence, according to the Des Moines Register. In 2022, CBS 2 News reported that Burns was appealing the conviction based on the way in which his DNA sample was obtained.